I think it's very telling that you guys are here today on the day of this vote to kind of, and I know you guys were watching some of the committee, some of the amendment processes, and I look forward to continuing to talk to you about that, explain more about that process, talk more about DC, but obviously it's always good to have people from the district, especially people of your age and of your talent, who are out here and get to experience Washington, D.C. So welcome. I look forward to having a good conversation with you.
Hello, I'm Phoebe. My classmates and I were pretty overwhelmed when we walked into the House of Representatives on Wednesday for a debate on the Farm Bill. What was it like when you stepped into the House of Representatives to cast your first vote?
Well, look, I can tell you that, yeah, no, that's right. When you step on that House floor, it can be overwhelming, but obviously it's a bundle of emotions that you feel. And now that I step on the House floor, it's clearly about the policy and making sure we're doing the right thing and pressing the right button when we vote. But I can tell you, though, that each time that I go onto that House floor, each time that I walk up the steps to the Capitol and see the dome, I feel the same way as you do. In the sense of the overwhelming feeling is not necessarily a sense of confusion as to what's going on. It's more of a sense of pride. This is, like I said, this is a job where it brings a lot of emotions, but one of the strongest emotion that I have is a sense of pride in our government, in our democracy, and the sense of being an American. And it's absolutely an awesome feeling to know that I'm a part of that. As you all are, but to be part of the process of our democracy is something that I'll always cherish.
You really get to see their willingness to want to produce good and want to work together. That's what I got out of from the congressional interviews more than anything, is that we see the power that we have as citizens and how we can influence our representatives.
My name is Sage, and we recently interviewed former Secretary of State George Shultz.
Wow, I wish I'd have been there for that. What a cool guy.
Yeah, and he spoke about how trust and accountability are very important values to our country. Do you think that what we see in the media is just spotlighting deficiencies in our country for the sake of getting viewers? Or do you think that trust and accountability are actually diminishing in the public sphere? And if so, how do you think we can address this?
I do think trust and accountability are diminishing. I'm not one that goes out and blames the media per se, although, news is usually conflict, and so I understand that. But I do think the country works better than most people think it does, and I do think that it wouldn't hurt every now and then to highlight areas when people agree. Again, we've had a lot of contention in this Congress. Most people don't know that this Congress has done more on human trafficking than any Congress in American history, and it's been very bipartisan, as you would expect. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum, there's not much worse than trafficking in human beings, quite often minors. This Congress has done more on veterans than any Congress, and frankly, we've done that for a number of years under both presidents of both parties, no matter who, because people honor people who serve. In terms of trust and accountability, there's a little bit more trust than you might think in the body. I mean, you figure out pretty quickly up here who you can trust. People take disagreement. If you disagree, you're evil. No, I just disagree. Doesn't mean they're not a good spouse, doesn't mean they're not a good parent, doesn't mean they're not a nice person, doesn't mean they're not fun to spend. So just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean you're evil. Actually, most politicians understand that intuitively because they're working in small groups. But, George Shultz, one of the wisest men in public life in my lifetime, and he's right, the erosion of trust and accountability is a big problem for us. And your word is very important in the legislative process. People need to know where you're going to be and that they can count on you if you commit. And that's one of the unpardonable sins up here, if you commit. And then if you have to change, that's okay, but you got to go tell the person that something has happened and I'm changing and this is the reason.
Even though the media sometimes makes you think that there's not a lot going on in politics and that there's a lot of controversy, there is also a lot of collaboration, a lot of compromise. And even though that's not how it always is, it still exists.
Now more than ever, it seems that our country needs active and engaged citizens. Can you talk a bit about what you think are the responsibilities of an engaged citizen?
Well, basically what we've talked about to this moment. Thinking about what we do in terms of populations that are stressed, our responsibilities to try and change priorities away from those that are suboptimal, making sure our voices are heard, and especially your voices. This is your future we're talking about. If taxes are unfair, you're going to pay them 5 times longer than I will. If the air is polluted, for better or worse, I probably running my course, you'll be breathing that stuff 5 times longer than I will. If there are restrictions on families, reproductive health, it's not my generation that's going to pay that price. It'll be yours. So I think encouraging people to actually understand what's going on and take action. And I think that's all our responsibility, to make sure, first of all, we're doing all that we can, and then making sure that people understand what their opportunities are and what's at stake.
The other day we interviewed Congressman Blumenauer from Portland, and he was so smart, he was so intelligent and considerate. I realized that our system, it has its flaws, but I think it's fundamentally so sound and gives people like him an opportunity to give back. And he came to us so eager, and he came to us eager because we're students and we're young, and he wanted to help empower us and educate us and have thoughtful discussion. He was engaged, and he wanted us to feel like we were being represented, even though we're outside of his constituency.
It seems as though the parties are dividing even more, but then you go in and you talk to these people, and they're just trying to do what's best for their constituents, and they're just normal people who just really care about what they're doing. And it kind of brings back the sense of humanity that I think a lot of people don't see or don't really think about when they're reading the news or they're getting angry about certain things. And I think the whole process is really humanized politics.
I think not only the politicians, but the NGOs, leaders are interested in what we have to say, because we are, you hear it a lot, but we are like the future of the nation and of the world. You get the sense that they all really want to help, and it's a very eye-opening and refreshing thing to see.